To Adam Selipsky, the President and CEO of Tableau Software.
It is great to be here with you. Thanks for coming.
All right, so I've saved all my hardball questions for you for this part of our discussion, Adam, so just get ready. You know, we share, Geekwire does, a neighborhood with you, Tableau, in Seattle, the Fremont neighborhood, and I have to say, walking around, seeing the tabloids, as you call your employees, in the neighborhood, I never would have imagined just the sheer vibrancy, the enthusiasm that your community brings together at this event, the Tableau conference. It's the 12th year that you've held it. Describe what the mood is here, the tone for someone who's never been here.
Somebody at the show, an attendee, came up to me and described it as half rock concert, half religious revival. And I think there's a lot of truth to that because those are all about energy, right? And that's the incredible thing to me here, is just this wall of energy. Somebody asked me last night, what's your favorite part of TC? And I didn't have to think about it very long. I said, it's like opening the oven and you just get this wall of heat coming at you. You just get this wall of energy here, because our community is incredible.
You've been here as Tableau CEO for 3 years. What have you learned from this community at this conference over the years? Can you give me a sense for how much the discussions here shape what you know and what gets translated into the tech teams and the rest of the company?
Well, I think we learn things from the community on different levels. There's sort of a, I'll call it not tactical, but an empirical level where we get a ton of product feedback from them. And you heard at the keynote this morning some of the applause for some of the features that we're announcing, and so many of those come directly out of the community feedback. So it's an incredibly important part of our product strategy and product roadmap. But more importantly, if you kind of take up a level, I think I've learned from the community that a community can be an organism. It can be an entire ecosystem. And I've learned that the company doesn't own it and the company doesn't control it. We're maybe the stewards of the Tableau community, and well, we're sort of humble servants to it. And customers really form the heart of the community. Our partners do as well. Tableau employees do, and it's something which is greater than all of us, which feeds on itself. And honestly, in 30 plus years of being a professional, a lot of that in the tech industry, I'm not prone to hyperbole, but I'll tell you, I've never seen anything like it in terms of a community in my life.
One of the big milestones for Tableau over the past year has been the acquisition by Salesforce for $15 billion. It's the largest acquisition in...
Almost 16. But
yeah,
okay.
Almost. It depends on which regulatory filing you...
Well, it's $17 billion if you look at the equity value. If you look at the enterprise value, is at 15.7.
15.7, let's stick with 15.7 as our canonical number then. So this was a giant deal for Salesforce, but clearly also a giant deal for Tableau. Salesforce co-CEO Mark Benioff was on stage with you this morning, really making your first joint public appearance since the acquisition was finalized. Can you give us an update on where you are with that integration, that acquisition, because there was a little bit of a plot twist that Geekwire readers will know about.
There was, yes. It's been a little bit of a page turner for sure. So we announced the acquisition in the first half of June, I think June 11th. And our teams started, as they should, quickly down the path of integration. And of course, this has to go through regulatory review in a number of countries. And just before the deal closed, which was on August 1st, the UK decided they were going to review the deal and then actually issued an order asking the companies to hold separate, it's called, and not engage in further exchange of confidential information.
So this is amazing. The deal closed, and yet you were not able to integrate until they cleared this about 10 days ago.
It's an unusual circumstance for sure. And so really, we were very much trying to, and did, honor that order and work very, very closely with the Competition and Markets Authority in the UK. And just last Tuesday, they lifted that order, and the teams were able to really start collaborating, and that really opened the door for Mark being able to be here on stage with me today, and we'll reciprocate next week at Dreamforce in San Francisco, and all of those discussions and planning have been able to kick back in.
What would you say to some of the folks that I've been talking with here at the Tableau conference who are a little bit uncertain about what the Salesforce acquisition will mean for them? I know because of the newness of the deal, and particularly because of that purgatory that you were in, you can't talk in a lot of detail, but what can you say to the typical Tableau community member who might even be concerned about what the acquisition by Salesforce will mean for the products that they know and in many cases love?
Well, most of the people I've talked to have been pretty optimistic about what the acquisition is going to bring, and I think that's because the value for customers, both for Tableau customers and for existing Salesforce customers, to me anyway, is just really self-evident. So Salesforce has been incredibly consistent and overt and determined to let everybody know that they want to help accelerate Tableau's existing mission. We have a 7-word mission statement. We help people see and understand data, and they just want us to go faster on that journey. And they've got so many assets on the technology side, on the field resources side, that we get to turn the dial on a time machine and just get there faster.
What about from a sales perspective, an employee perspective? Can you give a little bit more about where you see this acquisition headed for other constituencies that you care about?
Sure, well, Tableau is going to continue to run as an independent subsidiary. We're going to cooperate really closely, and we certainly wouldn't be behaving in customers' best interest if we didn't, but we, from an org structure perspective, will remain relatively unchanged. But our field teams will absolutely want to cooperate for customers' sake. So I imagine there'll be a lot of customers, certainly over the past few months, both Mark and I have each independently heard from a lot of customers who have said, oh, we're big Salesforce customers, we're big Tableau customers, we want to go bigger on one or both. And we've just been telling them, hey, as soon as we can, we'll come and have those discussions with you. So I think it'll be a great thing for customers, and our field teams are going to want to pass leads and collaborate closely, even as the Tableau sales team works maniacally with customers to maximize the depth of those Tableau deployments.
What will the integration, the combination mean for jobs, particularly in the Seattle region where many of Tableau's jobs currently are?
I think that the acquisition will only increase and accelerate the job creation worldwide for Salesforce and Tableau and area. Tableau and Salesforce each have had, I think, pretty aggressive employee growth targets. Tableau, recently went over 4,500 employees, and I'm pretty sure we'll head over 5,000 pretty quickly. Salesforce is obviously considerably bigger than that, but still growing as well. And I think that Salesforce has talked about really wanting to treat Seattle as an important place to house a lot of different teams, and I think having not only the close to 1,000 employees that Salesforce already has in Seattle, but adding into that the over 2,000 in our corporate headquarters is really going to create a wonderful anchor, if you will, in the region to create further growth and attract fantastic candidates both within Seattle and from other places.
Let's go big picture. Let's zoom out and go a little meta here, because at the core of everything that you're talking about and that you're working on at Tableau is data. And I think a lot of people hear the catchphrases, big data, explosion of data, and your technology helps, as you say, people see and understand data. How would you describe the state of data, even in just a qualitative way, in 2019, on your past 3 years as Tableau CEO, and also your decades in the industry? How much data is there out there, and how good are we right now at actually seeing and understanding it?
Well, I think by that I mean the world, the community broadly speaking. I think we've made a lot of progress over the past few years, but I feel like we're still very much at the beginning, and in some senses are just hanging on to the life raft as the sea of data, the river of data carries us along. People think that the data explosion has happened. It's actually barely just begun. I saw an IDC forecast showing that in the decade leading up to 2025, the amount of data subject to analysis, not even all data, just the amount of data subject to analysis is going to grow 50x.
Wow.
And so we're really just at the beginning stages of that. And so I think that companies are either going to drown in that sea of data, or they're going to create incredible opportunities, new companies, new business models, entirely new industries like genomics and fintech and ad tech out of that data deluge. And so it all just does start from the volume of need. And then of course, well, how are you going to get on top of it? And that's why Tableau has really focused on creating this end-to-end analytics platform. And the end-to-end is so important because Customers need to prepare data before they can analyze it. They need to analyze it. They need to collaborate and share. They need to ingest data from all sorts of different data sources. They need different types of interfaces, including natural language interfaces. And we're working on all those things because while I think that analytics is going to become ubiquitous and is going to be used by literally hundreds of millions of knowledge workers around the world, it's not just going to happen by itself. We have to help make that happen. We have to enable the community to have really useful tools and really useful platforms that let them get on top of that data.
You showed today a few features that leverage machine learning and artificial intelligence, view recommendations, explain data. To what extent do you expect others like them in the future, AI, machine learning, to play a role in understanding data?
Well, so you mentioned some of the buzzwords of the past. Of course, AI is it today. Sometimes I like to joke, I'm just going to do a presentation and just stick up AI on a slide.
Right.
And somebody will say, well, what's that about? And I'll say, didn't you see the slide? It says AI.
It's exactly what big data and IoT were 3 and 4 years ago.
And cloud before that.
Yes, exactly.
But cloud turned out to be real. And I think AI is real as well. I think there's a lot of froth about what it means, and we'll have to kind of sort the wheat from the chaff. But I think of AI as a technology. It's not something that I think our customers should have to care about vis-a-vis Tableau at all. I think it's our job to use machine learning and artificial intelligence, deepen our products in ways that just create amazing experiences for customers, and they shouldn't know or care how those come to be. But they are, I think these, the features and the products that they're enabling are going to be transformative for customers as they work with data and do analysis. So really, if you take a step back, I would argue that the past 30 plus years of the business intelligence industry has been around answering a single question, which is what? The word what. What does my data show? What is the state of my world? And we're really trying to help move beyond that and go from the what to the why. Why is my data the way it is? What's driving it? And to do that, typically you've needed a data scientist or at least a very advanced statistician. And with brand new features like explain data, literally with a couple clicks, we run Bayesian models in the background, other AI techniques, and examine all of your data to say with statistical relevance, what factors are driving a data point to be the way they are. And so now you really democratize data science down to where a competent analyst can be really answering the why questions. So I think it's an incredibly exciting new frontier. We're at literally version 1.0 of that, so we'll have a rich roadmap ahead of us, but I think it's a big part of the future of analytics.
You mentioned the cloud, and that is in part your roots. You worked at Amazon Web Services before becoming Tableau's CEO, and it was interesting this morning and yesterday, Tableau announced a deeper partnership with AWS, the ability to use Amazon Web Services to conduct analysis on data. But you also made a point this morning during your keynote of highlighting integrations with Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, and even Alibaba Cloud, which was a bit of a surprise. Where do you see that evolving for the typical Tableau customer and for Tableau's relationship? Will AWS be a first-class citizen on Tableau with the others behind, or how will that play out?
Whatever our customers need will be first-class citizens. So we have a big mantra around flexibility and choice, and you see it in the deployment options that you just mentioned. So we're really the only significant analytics player that allows customers to do really rich, robust deployments on premises, still in their own data centers, and also in the public cloud, but not just one or two, all of the major public clouds. And then some of them want a fully managed SaaS offering, and we have Tableau Online for that, which has over 15,000 customer accounts. So wherever customers want to deploy, we give them a really robust option for doing so. And that's going to continue to be our mantra. We're just going to figure out what customers need, and we're going to maniacally go and build it. So as long as customers want those cloud options, we intend to deliver.
It's interesting because when you talk about Tableau and the cloud, it's a bit nuanced. You have the cloud services that customers might use in conjunction with Tableau, and then you might have, and you do use, cloud and Amazon in particular to run some of your own services. will you be continuing to use Amazon as your exclusive cloud provider for those internal Tableau uses and for those uses of powering your technology?
Well, we did, and by the way, this started before I came to Tableau. Tableau was starting to move its SaaS solution, Tableau Online, and we really continued that and then completed it when I was here. And we started with AWS, and they have been a great partner, and we started there because they have by far the greatest market share, and that's where the majority of customers are using the cloud. And so our being able to integrate with Amazon services like Redshift and Athena, for example, make it really easy for customers. If and when there's strong customer demand for our SaaS offering to run on other platforms, then because we're going to remain so customer focused, we will absolutely evaluate those in the future.
All right. I want to talk about some bigger picture social issues, and this gets in part into some of the things that Mark Benioff addresses in his book, Trailblazer. Really an interesting insight it was for me into this company that's now going to be playing an outsized role, obviously for Tableau and also for the Seattle region. Mark Benioff has called Seattle effectively HQ2 with the Tableau acquisition. Something that he talks a lot about is trust and the fact that his employees have sort of influenced his thinking on big picture social issues. And one thing that both companies have grappled with is this question of how to deal with employee pushback on government contracts. And in fact, there were Tableau employees who demonstrated near the company's headquarters recently on this topic, asking Tableau to end its contracts with customs and immigration officials. How do you view this type of issue as a CEO when your employees might disagree with the aims of the people who use your technology?
Well, really to me this is part of the broader issues around diversity and inclusion and having very diverse thoughts and opinions within the company and being very inclusive in creating the right environment for those all to be expressed. Our customer base is millions strong in terms of end users, tens and tens of thousands of customer accounts around the world in every industry. And they are very diverse. And we're not going to serve them well unless we're very diverse inside the company as well. So we really welcome the full range of opinions on political, social, all sorts of other issues, and we want to give good forums. Fora? I don't know, what's the plural?
That's very nice. Yes.
Fora?
Did you major in English as well?
No, my mother was an English teacher, so she's taught me well.
That was the proper plural, I believe.
At any rate, we want to provide that and give our employees a voice, and we all become better for it. I think it's important to separate the substance from the process. So, Tableau as a company, has a lot of constituents, a lot of stakeholders, and we do our best to navigate that and serve our customers really well and serve all of our stakeholders. And even when we've got a group of employees who may have an opinion that's different than what the company's currently doing, we really go out of our way to try and have a respectful, honest, transparent conversation and set of processes around how those opinions get aired. And I think in general, we've done a pretty decent job of that, and I think we create safe spaces where and mechanisms where people can express what they want to express, and we legitimately get a chance to hear it because it's important that we hear.
On that specific issue, how should tech companies approach it? Because you've had folks across the spectrum. Chef Software, a developer operations company based in Seattle, decided to pull back from some of its contracts. Microsoft is very clear that it feels it's important to support vital government services and separating that from controversies. Where do you fall in that spectrum?
Sure, well first I'll just say, every company's got to chart its own path. I'm not commenting on what anybody else has done, and I'm also not commenting on any individual customer that we have, because those are all, confidential. All of our customers are confidential as they choose to be public. But I would say in general on this type of issue, that in general, two things are true, and it makes a difficult, or I'll say sometimes unclear path to chart. But one is Tableau exists to serve its customers and to serve them well. And our customers do all sorts of magnificent things, whether it's literally helping to eradicate malaria, educating, providing clean water for kids, saving money inside of a Fortune 500 company and producing lower prices for consumers as a result. I mean, it's across the spectrum. And we are fundamentally here to support our customers. At the same time, we absolutely do believe that companies have a broader mission. We very much feel not only part of the global community, but part of the local physical communities in which we operate. And we think it's important to have values and to be a great corporate citizen. And we try really hard to uphold both of those two things that I just said. And the only way I found to do it is to spend a lot of time on it and scratch your head a lot and make sure that you're staying true to your values while serving your customers really well.
So this is my last question where I'm basically using Mark Benioff's book as grist here. Let me give you one more of these. So he wrote in Trailblazer that the opposition to the head tax in Seattle was something that he used in San Francisco to kind of push back and push forward with Prop C. And for people who haven't followed this, there were two different types of taxes to fund homeless relief. And I was looking at this last night and I realized you were more than 100 Seattle area business executives opposing the head tax. Is that something that you and Mark have discussed because you were effectively on opposite sides of that issue writ large?
Well, to be honest with you, I was very casually aware, as many people were, of what was going on in San Francisco, but I'm not deep on it. And the answer to these questions is always very nuanced. What's the specific proposal, the specific funding mechanism, the specific use of funds? And we felt at the time, just given that set of circumstances in Seattle, like many business leaders, civic leaders and politicians, that it just wasn't the best answer for Puget Sound as a whole. We're very much committed to, and we put a ton of energy into helping to alleviate the homelessness problem in Seattle. We're on the Mayor's Innovation Council where we work on that collaboratively together. We work with many government agencies, with nonprofits like Community Solutions, and we're deeply committed to actually solving homelessness issues.
It's interesting because you do have the Tableau Foundation, and I know you've committed $100 million effectively to addressing problems around the world using data, and it's one of the ways that the Salesforce and Tableau cultures are actually aligned in a lot of ways. Here's my idea. You've got this interesting connection now between San Francisco and Seattle, between the two companies. What if the two philanthropic arms of the companies could come together and lead a joint effort that other companies follow to address this issue of homelessness? That's my pitch for you here.
Well, I think each of us feel the responsibility and the opportunity to be leaders in homelessness amongst many other issues. There's climate change, there's equality, there's poverty, there's health, but in homelessness in particular, which are major issues that really affect people, thousands and thousands of people in Seattle and in San Francisco. We both want to be really involved. If we can do that together, then awesome, I'm all for it.
That's great. Well, we're here at the Tableau conference. It's really interesting to see what's going on around us. One of the things that struck me was the sheer number of blue chip marquee companies that are using Tableau, and maybe it shouldn't have been a surprise to me given the fact that you were valuable enough to be acquired by Salesforce for $15.7 billion on the record. I'm going to show you the filing where it says it's less than that, but anyway. What do you do to attract those big companies, and how can you simultaneously serve them and the small developer or small startup that might also want to leverage Tableau's infrastructure and approach?
Well, we absolutely want to, are going to, and currently are serving all of those people. I have no time for points of view that say you have to choose. I say no, we don't. We're going to do both, and we're going to serve everybody from the nonprofit to the individual hobbyist to the data geek to the big enterprise. And I think you can do it because everybody needs a broad and deep platform that has incredible features and enables them to do what they need to do with analytics. And some things will vary. You're going to have the individual developer probably be less concerned with access controls and things like that than an enterprise will. So there are things that we'll do from an enterprise perspective, but we absolutely are big enough and have enough internal mind share to pay attention to all of those communities. On the enterprise side specifically, it's been an across the company multi-year effort and will continue to be going forward. It starts with the product and building not only security and governance and compliance features into the product. It means that you market differently and think a lot about customer reference stories and ROIs and total cost of ownership analyses. It means that you approach your sales and your account management relationships differently. You really think long-term about building long-term trusted relationships. And it means you have to have fantastic support offerings where you really focus on long-term customer success. And the team has done a great job over the past few years of building those up to a point where you do have tens of thousands of Tableau users at places like JP Morgan Chase and Charles Schwab and Woolworths and Honeywell and Pfizer, and I'll stop there.
It seems like you have a lot of customers in common with Salesforce as well. What does Mark Benioff email you about these days?
Mark loves to email me and tell me how much he is seeing and understanding data and how much he loves data, and I always get a kick out of the enthusiasm that Mark and the rest of Salesforce is bringing to just helping to put a shoulder behind the wheel of Tableau.
So I got to say, the last time we spoke, I was kind of ribbing him through you about the fact that he's still struggling with the plural of the abbreviation of the product that Tableau creates, essentially. Visualizations or vises. And
yeah.
He struggled with it on stage today. Again.
I thought he nailed it today.
He
to me.
That's when you are going to know that the integration is complete, when Mark says vises without pausing.
Well, Mark's really become a fantastic, anointed him a Tableau data rock star.
That's right. So the last thing here, very important question. What will be your and Tableau's written, drawn character as part of the Salesforce presentation?
Critter, the Salesforce critter.
Yeah.
That of all the integration topics, Todd, of all of them, this could be the most hotly debated and closely followed.
I have my own favorite.
It's quite amazing. So I think that there's been a lot of discussion. I think we will absolutely also involve the community in that. I think Mark gave the community the thumbs up to voice their opinions this morning on that. But do you have a particular vote?
I liked what you mentioned, Orca. I think that makes a lot of sense. Although, I guess you probably wouldn't want to be endangered necessarily, but you can have a show of support for, breathing new life into the Orca population in Puget Sound.
I mean, just as a sign of the hot debate, there are two schools of thought on that. One is that the orca is very Seattle, very Pacific Northwest, emblematic, and it's an important and wonderful creature. Other people say, no, orcas cannot exist in the forest. They will die in the forest. You cannot have a forest creature that's an orca. So that debate rages on.
Any last words here, final words for the that you're addressing on the live stream?
This is the most exciting week of the year for tabloids, for Tableau as a company. We love gathering with the community here. The energy is amazing, and we're just humbled and inspired by the close to 20,000 folks that are gathered here. It's going to be awesome. Hope everybody has an amazing week, and thank you.
Adam Selipsky, the President and CEO of Tableau Software. Thank you very much for joining us on this special episode of the Geekwire podcast.
Todd, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, as always.
All right, thanks to everybody who's watching on the Tableau live stream. Todd Bishop. You can check out all of our coverage at geekwire.com, and you can subscribe to the Geekwire podcast to hear this in audio form at geekwire.com/podcast or wherever you listen. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next time from Las Vegas.